Let's get started doing a speed paint of a Paladin Enforcer from Warcaster Neo-Mechanika. Welcome everybody, I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield, and we're back for another speed paint. Now if you never watched one of these videos before, which is probably not surprising because this is only the second one, I'm pretty much going to show you a set of simple, easily accessible techniques to paint up your miniatures relatively fast. My general goal is about 45 minutes for your basic trooper, and that's what I've done here with about a paint job that, with a little bit of practice, you can do in about 40 minutes. So, with that, let's dive into painting up a Paladin Enforcer from the Iron Star Alliance from Warcaster Neo-Mechanika by Privateer Press. As with any miniature painting process, we need to prime the miniatures first. In this case, I'm using an all-black spray primer and this fancy little 3D printed priming tool, something I created, and you can find a link to purchase the STL files for that over on my Etsy store in the show notes of this video. And yes, I know that these miniatures being primed right now are not Paladin Enforcers. I didn't film that process when I should have. Hopefully I'll get around to painting these miniatures on the channel a little bit later. Our first set of colors is all about giving your miniature a metallic undercoat. So you have a gray, a silver, a black wash, and a white for highlighting the colors. Then I've got some armor colors, which is a dark base color. I have a highlight color, and then going to be using the white again to give it a little bit of highlighting. Then finally we have the glowing colors. For that I've got a bright color, in this case a bright blue, and then I'm also going to be using my white one more time to give a little bit more of a highlight effect. For this miniature I have a large dry brush as well as an artificer layer extra small brush. Finally, I am going to be using a wet palette, but this is not particularly required for this painting technique, so feel free to use whatever you want for your palette. For the first step here, I'm going to be dry brushing gray all over the miniature. Now complete coverage isn't required with the gray color, so when you've got a pretty good coating of it, we're going to move on to the silver. For this step, I'm going to be using sort of a dry brushing like technique, but I'm also going to be dabbing on the metallic silver color to give a little bit of a patchwork color, but we don't want to completely coat all the gray with the silver. And there goes the miniature off its base. Let me go find my super glue. Now the next step is to take a little bit of the white, mix it in with the silver, and repeat this dabbing process, but this time you want to cover even less of the miniature. With this mixture, don't go above 50% silver, 50% white. You want to keep more silver than white. With our silver and gray speckled layer done, we're going to give the entire miniature a black wash. In this case, I'm using Citadel Shades None Oil from Games Workshop's line of paints. Now washes typically take a while to dry, so this would be a good point where if you have multiple miniatures to paint up, you go back and repeat the previous set of steps on another miniature while waiting for this coat of wash to dry. Now at this point we're going to do something that seems a little bit out of order. If you look at some of the artwork or as the other miniatures that have been painted by the company, they have little glowing pieces all over their armor because, you know, sci-fi, awesomeness, glowing, yeah, whatever. So we're going to start with our bright glowing color and we're going to apply that to all the different little inset areas that need to glow. Now from this point onward, I'm going to be working solely with my artificer layer extra small brush. Thin down the paint a little bit and then very carefully add the paint to all the glowing areas. If you screw up a little bit, don't freak out, we'll fix it in a minute. Next, we're going to take a little bit of white, mix it in with your highlight color to get a brighter shade of that color. And add a small amount of that to each of the glowing areas. Now this can be a little tricky, so don't worry too much about it if you add too much. And as before, add a little bit of water just to thin down your highlight color and white paint mixture. Now it's time to go back and fix some of your oopsies. And if you're like me, you made a lot of them during this step, and the glowing paint kind of got out of the region it's supposed to. Fortunately, because these glowing areas are recessed, it's pretty easy to fix. We're going to take some of our base silver color and just carefully go back over the edges where all the glowing areas are, and just fix any of the spilled over color. Now it's time to move on to our armor panels. So we're going to start with whatever your base color is for your armor panels. You want to water it down a little bit and just paint whatever sections of the armor you want to make your solid color. Now the beauty of having your metallic undercoat here that was so quickly painted is that in the event you don't cover some of an armor panel, it's going to look perfectly fine because it's going to look like the armor's been damaged or chipped or worn in battle. This metallic undercoat does a great job of covering any of your mistakes from this point onward. Now, of course, the more armor panels you paint from this point onward, the longer your painting is going to take. So it's going to be up to you to find that balance between coverage and how long you want to spend on painting a miniature. You may even not want to cover some of the edges of the armor pieces to intentionally give them that chipped, battle-damaged look. Moving on to the detail layer of the armor panels, we're going to be using your highlight color you chose for your armor. Now what you do at this point is kind of up to you. All you're going to do is apply a layer of highlights. If you want to be edge highlighting, you can go that route. If you want to make it more of a camouflage route, you can go that route. Neither one's really more difficult than the other. It's just a matter of how you apply your paint strokes to the miniature. I tend to go with more of a camouflage look, or give the miniature a bit of a splotchy coating. And I do that just because I like that better than the more definitive, very visible edge highlighting appearance of my miniatures. But that is a personal choice on my side. Now at this point there is an optional step you can take where I'm going to take some more white and highlight our highlight color a little bit and then go back over the armor one more time. Once again, this adds a few minutes to your paint job, so maybe you want to do it, maybe you don't. It's a choice on your end. You don't need a whole lot of white to make much of a difference though. You don't want to have too distinctive of a look. To get a little bit more of an interesting look to the miniature, I'm going to paint some of these areas in a more glowing type effect. For example, the helmet visor and a few parts of the gun. So I'm going to start with my base glow color, and I'm going to cover those areas with that paint. And why not add even more white in for one more highlight layer? The next thing we have to deal with are these hexagon glowing areas on his back cooling fin. I'm going to start with my glowing color and dab a little bit of that on each of the shapes. At this point, it is important that you don't get any paint in between each of the shapes. You want that dark color there to really bring this area out. With that color applied, we're going to do a little bit of highlight work on the hexagon things. Take some of the white, mix it with a highlight color to get a bright, glowing highlight color, and then apply an even smaller amount of paint to each of the shapes. It's the contrast between that base glowing color and the white glowing color mixture that tells your brain that this area is glowing or it's lit up or something like that. And if you want to feel adventurous, take a little bit of white and add a tiny bit of that to each of the shapes. Next up, we're going to apply some sort of unit markings to the armor. The idea here is to have some way to distinguish the squads on the battlefield. For me, because it goes with my blue, gray, white armor colors, I'm just going to go with some basic white stripes. And have all the miniatures in this squad have the same white stripes in their shoulder pads and maybe some leg armor or something like that. Nothing fancy, just a little bit of distinguishing marks. Let's have him join his buddies here, and with that, we can call this speed paint done. So here's a pro video tip for you guys. When you go to record your intro and outro for YouTube, make sure you have your microphone plugged in. I just recorded both of those and the microphone was not plugged in, so let's do it again for real. Well, there you go. Thank you guys all for watching. Once again, I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield, and we got our 40-minute battle-ready painted Iron Star Alliance Paladin Enforcer miniature done. I think I got that right. If you want to see me apply this process to another miniature, go ahead and put it in the comments and I'll see what I can do. You can probably take these techniques and also paint up your warjacks in the same basic way. It might take a little bit longer because they're bigger miniatures, but the same things should pretty much apply. I have done this once before with an Age of Sigmar Sigmarine, more commonly known as the Stormcast Eternal. You can find a link for that one in the show notes. And once again, also you can find a link to purchase the STL files for the 3D printed priming tool I used at the very beginning. Also, hopefully, big hopefully, because I haven't actually checked it this time, is that we got a little bit better quality for the painting segments in terms of video quality. You see this little guy hiding over here. It's my new camera that I'll be adding into my YouTube studio. It's a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K camera. So if I wanted to, I could record these things in glorious 4K. And then, you know, I'm not going to actually do that. It's probably way overkill. But it is an option in the future if I ever want to. I have to upgrade all the other studio cameras to 4K to make it all work, but you know. And then I have to replace this thing because this thing's only 1080p. Yeah, never mind. Anyway, with that, once again for the second time, because I always do that at least twice, thanks for watching and have a great week. Oh yeah, hit subscribe too. YouTube likes that. I don't know if YouTube likes a thumbs up or thumbs down, to be honest with you. I have some evidence with some of my videos that it doesn't really matter. You look at the Corpse Rack 90-minute or 30-minute speed painting video. I think I ticked a lot of people off with that one. But it does get a lot of views. So I'm not sure how much the thumbs up, thumbs down works, but you know, you can hit like if you want to. That may just, at the very least, it records a video in your back end, and you know, you guys go back and look for it as well. It makes it easier to find. So, all right. Have a great week, guys.